Calculation is arguably the most important skill in chess, and as part of our training to try and get Grandmaster, we're working on puzzles every single day. These puzzles are 2,800 rated, and I'm going to show you the 4 puzzles that I worked through this morning. On this first one, we've got an absolute mess of a position. We're actually a bishop and a knight down, but White's king is in a very dicey situation. What it means for us is we need to try and do something towards the king, because if we play a quiet move and let White consolidate, White's just 2 pieces up. So my first candidate moves in this position are rook takes e3. There's 2 different rooks that can take, so either rook e takes or rook d takes. And I couldn't see anything with the queen. There's no checks or decent captures of the queen. Obviously, exchanging is just going to be terrible. So I started with calculating rook e takes on e3, but then after rook takes e3 recaptures, I couldn't find a good follow-up, because, for example, if we play queen to f1 check, the king can run to e4. But that's when I realized if I look at the alternative with rook d takes, if he recaptures with rook takes e3, then queen f1 is checkmate. So that already means that after rook d takes e3, the king has to go to f2 or f4, which looks promising because we regain a piece with check. We're still a piece down, so we need to find a follow-up. But rook d takes e3 already looks quite promising. Now, the first move that we can start with after rook d takes e3 is king f2. And here we can look at the forcing moves first. So queen h2 is a very forcing move. The only move is king to f1. And then after rook takes on e1, bishop takes on e1, queen h1 check, we're already going to regain the bishop as well with check, and probably with a mating attack. So after takes, no rook takes because queen f1 is mate. King f2 check, 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 and we get both pieces back, but we still have this big attack, and this is actually going to be winning. So then the only move that we need to be concerned with is king to f4. And the question is, after king to f4, is there a follow-up? And again, start with forcing moves first, and I saw that queen h6 is extremely forcing. It forces the king to f5. And then another forcing move here is queen h7 check, because if he just goes back to f4, then rook e4 is going to be checkmate after the queen captures on e4. And here in this position, queen g6 is definitely no good. He's going to lose the queen after checks with the rook. I can start with rook f3 check as a minimum. So then king takes on f6. And now in this position, we're still a piece down, so we have to find a win. Queen f7 is a candidate move, but after king g5, it doesn't look like there's a strong follow-up. And then other checks are, if we use this rook to check, then the rook on e1 can take. But instead, we could use this rook on the 8 file to check. And now, after the king runs to g5, we can collect the queen. And this is now going to be winning because we're going to be material up in the end. For example, here takes, he has to take this rook, and in this position, importantly, we can throw in a queen d7 check forking before we capture this this rook, and we get a winning endgame. So yeah, quite a forcing win from this messy position to 2 pieces down. Okay, next one. When I got this one, I had to orientate myself a little bit. We're white and the pawns are going up the board. So there's a very crazy pawn race going on where black is 1 move away from checking our king away and queening, but we also have connected passed pawns that are very strong. So the first candidate moves that popped into my mind here were knight to e8 check and rook to e6 check. And knight to e8 check looks quite promising because the point is that after the king moves, we push the pawn to g7 and we're going to make a queen. But then after knight e8 check, king f5, we have a problem stopping this pawn as well on e2. And he's also attacking our rook. So here I was thinking, could we sacrifice the rook for the pawn? Because now after bishop takes, then we push the pawn and we're going to make a queen. And this is actually winning. But find the defense, break the defense. After rook takes on e2 in this position, black is not forced to take the rook. And actually, instead of going for material, he can start controlling these pawns with a move like rook h1. This bishop can take on d5 to stop this pawn, and this rook will collect this pawn on h5. And actually, black's able to draw this position by ignoring the exchange that we offer him. Alternatively, rook e6 check, king goes to g7. We can grab a pawn, but after all of this, we still have this big problem with the passed pawn on e2. But then I got hit with a nice idea, which is that we know that knight e8 check and g7 would be winning if he captures. So why don't we change the move order and play rook takes e2 first? And now he doesn't have bishop takes d5 because the knight's still defending. We can go back rook e6 check in one move. So he needs to take. But now after we play knight g8 check and the king moves and we push g7, he's got no way to stop the pawn from queening. After check, we don't take the bishop and allow him to stop the pawn. We play king to g2 and we're still going to make this queen, which can't be stopped. Okay, 2 out of 2. This one we've got a couple more pieces on the board now. And material is even, but there's a lot going on. We've got some sort of kingside attack, but black's got the extra pawns on the queen side and he's creating some threats. The first thing tactically to note is we want to play knight e7 check to fork, but it doesn't work because after rook takes, this bishop is pinned, so we can't recapture. And one idea we might have is g4 to kick the queen, but then the queen could move to d5 or even d7, and we don't have this fork anymore. So there's nothing immediate that we can do, which hints to us that we need to bring in more pieces to the attack. And here we have a nice move that deals with the threat of the rook and brings in the rook to the attack, which is very natural. Rook c to e1. And here now knight e7 is a big threat because we can recapture the rook. So black needs to keep creating his own threats with knight to d2. And now we can go knight e7 check. We can also go g4, which we need to decide between. If we go g4 now, an annoying move is queen back to d7, kind of controlling these squares. So knight e7 check first, takes, and you'll see the difference in a moment. Now after knight takes f1 and now we play g4, the queen doesn't have this d7 square. And the point is, one tactic that we want to make is rook takes g7, king takes g7, bishop h6 check, with unleashing a discovered attack on the queen. But here there's king f6. But by playing g4 to kick the queen, this queen has to keep defending f7 to stop queen to f7, queen g7 checkmate. So they play queen d5. But now we do this tactic, and the king is not able to defend this queen. 3 out of 3. This is the fourth one, a king and pawn ending, which can be notoriously tricky. My first instinct in this position is to play f4 to fix his pawns and try and create an outside pass pawn. So after f4, g5, takes, this sort of position is usually winning. You've got to kind of work out is the king in time, but essentially with the outside pass pawn, we can divert the enemy king and then come and get this pawn whilst this king is further away. But black doesn't have to play g5, he can wait. And now I'm thinking, can I get my king into g5 and flank him? But the problem here is, whenever my king goes to h4, he just needs to go to f6. And then the question is, can there be a zigzag? Who has more waiting moves? Well, actually here, with the pawn on the 7th rank, he always has the options to wait. So after a4, he has the choice to go a6 or a5, and in this position goes a5 and passes the move to me. And this is an easy draw. He just needs to be able to play king f6 whenever my king goes to h4. I have to be careful, actually. I don't allow him to run in here and lose the game. So then instead of f4, the other move that makes sense, I mean, pushing this pawn doesn't really help. He gets time to consolidate here. The other move that makes sense is to try and flank with the king with king to h4. And now, if the king moves, we get to stick our king into g5 and control the position and eventually win these pawns. So he plays g5 check, but we continue flanking with the king with king to h5. And here we can react to his waiting move a5. We just play a4. And here he's going to run out of moves and eventually lose these pawns because of our flanking king. So yeah, we got 4 out of 4 in the training puzzles today. We'll continue working hard. Hope you enjoyed that and found that insightful.